And yep.
Good morning. This is Eric Bergman at the Department of Local Affairs. We're just going to give it about a minute more while everyone's dropping into the call, and just hang on for us and we'll start shortly.
I will go ahead and share my agenda for now until my internet says no.
Okay.
Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Fantastic.
And I'm going to give it about 30 more seconds, guys, and then we'll go ahead and kick off here.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's go ahead and begin. Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Bergman. I'm the Division Director for the Division of Local Government here at the Department of Local Affairs. We're coming to you live from 1313 Sherman Street in downtown Denver. This is our monthly, or actually our bi-monthly DOLA Local Government Resource Call. This bi-monthly call continues to support local governments and partner organizations, but is moving beyond funding navigation toward general resources from DOLA and partner agencies that can support local government operations. For this month's call, I'm excited to have Division of Local Government staff here to tell us everything we ever wanted to know about the Colorado Main Street program. However, given the fact this call has been heavily focused on funding navigation, especially at the federal level, I would be remiss not to address the elephant in the room and provide a quick update on some federal funding issues. In late February, DOLA partnered with the Governor's Office of Federal Funds and Strategic Initiatives, the Colorado Municipal League, and Colorado Counties Incorporated to host an office hours call with local governments to provide critical updates and share insights on recent federal policy changes affecting funding and operations for local governments. This included updates on the executive order as well as the status of legal challenges to those executive orders. The call was also an opportunity for local governments to share what they are hearing and experiencing. We hosted a second call earlier this week with special districts across the state. The governor's office has compiled information along with a list of questions, answers, and resources from those calls and shared it as a newsletter. A link for this is provided in the chat. There's still a great deal of uncertainty out there, but as we move forward, we will try to keep everybody updated on status of programs and all of that. And if you are having challenges or having difficulty in either current contracts or future program contracts you're looking at or applications, please let us know. We'll try to get some answers to you. So let's first get into some DOLA updates from our State Demography Office. The State Demography Office is resuming their webinar series to provide some insights into using the SDO website and the American Community Survey resources maintained by the office. The webinars are free, but registration is required. The next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, April 9th on Census Business Tools. The full webinar schedule, registration recordings, and other materials are on the SDO training and webinar page. A link is being provided. The State Demography Office's population story map has been updated to present vintage 2023 population estimates and projections. Census Bureau vintage 2023 population estimates for the nation and other states are included in the summary and compared to Colorado estimates. The U.S. Census Bureau released the July 1st, 2024 population estimates for counties on March 13th, 2025, with plans to release the July 1st, 2024 population estimates for cities and towns this coming May. Please contact Nancy Gideon if you have any questions about these new population estimates. News from our Division of Housing. Guidelines for county and affordable housing populations under Proposition 123. The Division of Housing is excited to announce the development of draft guidelines for county affordable housing units under Prop 123 and the launch of new Prop 123 compliance information webpage. DOH, that's Division of Housing, is currently accepting feedback on the draft guidelines through March 31st, and we encourage interested parties to share their thoughts. DOLA developed these guidelines with input from interested groups to help local governments, tribal governments, and the housing providers understand and meet Proposition 123 requirements. Homeless Prevention Activities Program request for applications. The division is pleased to announce the release of the annual Homeless Prevention Activities Program request for applications for the fiscal year 25-26. The HPAP program provides funding to nonprofits and local governments across Colorado to prevent at-risk households, including youth-headed households, from experiencing homelessness. These funds help stabilize housing situations by providing temporary financial assistance and housing-focused case management. Applicants may request funding of up to $50,000 per application per organization. Applications are due April 4th, 2025 by 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Applicants may submit questions to Brianna West until midnight on March 21st, 2025. All questions and responses will be available on the RFA website. From our Community Development Office, we have just released the new Housing Planning Grant Program, which offers grants to certain local governments and regional entities to help them better understand their housing needs and to develop actionable and compliant housing needs assessments, housing action plans, and comprehensive plans. The first grant cycle is now open and closes on April 11th, 2025. Interested parties may email Ashley Basham for more information. In collaboration with the Colorado Energy Office and CDOT, DLG has published the full House Bill 24-1313 Transit-Oriented Communities Law Guidance that expands upon the first two sections of guidance published in late 2024, as well as updated versions of two important technical tools to support jurisdictions subject to House Bill 1313, the Housing Opportunity Goal Tool, and the Transit Center Calculation Model. Detailed information on 2024 land use and housing laws and implementation is available on the 2024 Land Use and Housing Legislation website. And please join us for the Land Use and Housing Legislation Monthly Engagement Meeting, March 28th, 2025 at 11 a.m. for additional support as your community works to comply with the above legislation. From our Colorado Resiliency Office, don't forget to update your bookmarks for the CRO, and Planning for Hazards websites as they have moved to improve accessibility. There are currently redirects for the old sites, but these won't be around for long. The Resiliency Office has just launched their new Guidance for Local Climate Adaptation tool to support local governments seeking to take action on climate adaptation and resilience. The guidance spans 6 key sectors and 28 different actions that can help reduce your community's vulnerability to environmental stressors. Check out the link in the chat. Local Government Services section. Part 3 of our DEO 101 series for special district designated election officials wrapped up on March 12th. These were coordinated with the Special District Association and CEGR Law. Each of these comprehensive webinars are recorded and posted on DLG's Special District Elections main page. Regular elections for Section 32-1 or Title 32 Special Districts and Conservation Districts will be May 6th. Special District election templates are also available on the DLG website and updated each election and when legislation dictates. Finally, from our Financial Services section, applications for energy impact assistance projects remain open through April 1st. This cycle has Tier 1 applications at up to $200,000 and Tier 2 applications up to $1 million. A total of $15 million is available, and please work with your regional manager to submit an application. Funding for the Energy and Mineral Impact Program comes from state severance tax on energy and mineral production and from a portion of the state share of royalties paid to the federal government for mining and drilling of minerals and mineral fuels on federally owned land. During fiscal year 25, actual monthly state severance tax revenues were consistently below expectations, in part due to increased refunds to severance taxpayers. The latest projections released on Monday show a larger reduction than initially anticipated. We will know more over the next couple of weeks regarding anticipated funding for the next fiscal year as the long bill, that's the state's budget bill, is introduced and the final budget numbers come into focus. So more to come on that. Applications for the Law Enforcement Community Services Grant Program also remain open through April 1st. This is the first application cycle for this program, which provides grants to law enforcement agencies, local government entities, and community organizations to improve services to the communities. A total of $1 million is available. An interested applicant should visit the LECS webpage for more information. Okay, that concludes our updates. We're going to move on now to today's program. I will tell you the great philosopher Bob Seger once said, sometimes even now, when I'm feeling lonely and beat, I drift back in time and I find my feet down on Main Street. Our speakers today are Gail Langley, our Main Street Program Manager, Tracy Stoffel, Main Street Specialist, and special guest Zach Higgins, Planning Director at the City of Rifle. My friends, you may take it away.
Thank you, Eric. That's one of my favorite songs, by the way. I won't tell, I'll age myself and tell everyone I had that 8-track back in the day. Well, hello. Looks like we have a great turnout today. I'm so glad that you are going to be listening to us talk a little bit about the Colorado Main Street program. I am Gail Langley. I am the state coordinator for the Main Street program, and I've been at DOLA coming up on 8 years as of next month. I'll kick it over to Zach.
Yep, I'm Zach Higgins, the planning director for the City of Rifle, and I'm speaking to you all in the capacity of the former Town of Elizabeth Community Development Director and Main Street Manager.
Tracy Stoffel. I am the Main Street Specialist here at the Department of Local Affairs.
And last but certainly not least, and he's not able to be on the call today, but we are going to talk about his services, is Larry Lucas. We are very fortunate to have an architect on staff servicing our small rural communities statewide. We're only one of about 9 state programs that have a licensed architect. He is currently in California and he did not want to join this call. Let's start. Well, just a little bit of background for those of you that may not be familiar with Main Street. It's been a movement going on since 1980. And it was established through the National Trust for Historic Preservation back in the days when people were moving to suburbs and malls were going up. And what was happening to our historic downtowns all across the country is they were becoming increasingly more vacant and maintenance was not being kept up. And they were starting to be in a tremendous state of disrepair. So the National Trust for Historic Preservation set up Main Street America, the National Main Street program, in order to combat that. So the roots of Main Street started with historic preservation, and we're going to talk a little bit about how the program has evolved today. We have 26 official communities in the state and 71 aspiring communities, which means they've reached out and asked for some technical assistance or are interested in using the framework to help revitalize their downtown. And obviously, we are housed within the Department of Local Affairs, and we are a statewide coordinating program with Main Street America. And our goal is to serve rural communities across the state. So I don't expect you to be able to see the state slide here, but just know that we are spread all across the state with our 26 official communities. We have different tier levels based on the level of excellence of how our communities are performing. And again, we have aspiring communities that have expressed interest that we're helping them with some of our services. So the benefits, just to kind of snapshot without going too much in detail, because we do have numerous examples throughout this presentation, is we do offer small mini grants and scholarships to all official communities. They're quite small. The mini grants range from currently $2,500 to $10,000 per year. And those funds are typically leveraged and used to do tangible investments in downtown. And we will show you some examples of that. And with our MOU with each city or town, We also require 2 professional development trainings that our Main Street managers attend annually. Without wanting to be a burden to local governments or the organization where it's housed, we provide the money for them to attend those trainings, so it's no cost to a community. I think our biggest area of support and services comes in the area of consulting and technical assistance. We do get funding each year through the Long Bill to provide technical assistance to communities in a variety of areas on all 4 points that I'm going to cover in a minute. We have a master contract with a pre-qualified set of consultants, and we tap into their services by reaching out to communities and defining what their needs are. And we handle all of the administrative burden for those contracts, from scoping out the project and sending out the RFP to that pool, to award and invoicing. So these are free services to our communities, and they can range anywhere from $5,000 to up to $65,000. I think one of the things that we all, Tracy, Larry, and I all pride ourselves in is in customer service. We are here to support communities and aspiring communities with helping connect them to things that they need in order to achieve their dreams. Again, we have a professional architect that can help individual business owners and building owners with improvements or modifications to their building. And we also do grant reviews for folks that are trying to leverage other opportunities at other agencies, and also submit letters of support for them on the state's behalf. And being in the Main Street program is prestigious. There's only 26 communities, and when people know that you are a Main Street official community, they know you've got an organization that is aligning with the goals of the town and working collectively as a team. And then next is our training and network. We have a state listserv, a national listserv, monthly webinars, monthly community conversation, and a plethora of library of resources. And I think Zach wanted to speak just a minute about how important that networking is to connect to resources.
Yep, absolutely. I was just going to say, to piggyback on what you said about the consulting services and technical assistance, that the Build a Main Street team really is, I saw them as a part of my team. They made my work easier, and we got a lot of projects done because of the assistance that they brought to the table. So they're a huge support in that. As far as the state network, they are an amazing group of people that have really changed the dynamic of Elizabeth while I was there. They added to the conversation on a lot of things. We were able to get new Frontline Market ideas from Steamboat. We came up with our facade grant and the idea for it from Brush. We changed our strategic planning and our mission and vision from things we saw from Meeker. Just so amazing from all those communities. And then as well, we get just amazing general support from our peers. There's something kind of isolating about being a Main Street manager and doing all the things we do and wearing all those hats. And so being able to come together and all get support from each other is pretty amazing. So
Thank you, Zach. So here is the framework of how Main Street actually is organized. And you can see from the wheel on the right how it all works collectively together in order to help your downtown. And we're going to cover each of these points with just a couple of slides to get you a little bit more familiar with it. First is the organization. Second is design. Third is promotion. And the last one is economic vitality. So we're going to dive into organization. The reason this program has still survived and is still thriving throughout the country is it is based on community-led downtown revitalization. That means the municipality, the partners, the building and business owners, and the residents are all working collectively on strategic priorities. So when we say working together, we really mean working together. And this slide is a little bit busy, but it actually talks about all those different partners in your community that have their fingers on wanting to make your community better and have a say and a voice and volunteers and things that can contribute to all working collectively. First is the economic development organizations, which can be business organizations, chambers, EDCs. There are civic organizations that have goals of giving back to the community, like Rotaries, American Legions, colleges and schools. There's also the heritage and cultural fabric of your communities, which Main Street really has a point of wanting to preserve that's unique for each one of you that's on this call. It's your preservation societies, your museums, your art councils, your libraries. And then it all ties back in with the municipality, who are the stewards of your comprehensive plan and your infrastructure. And, you know, you can't underestimate the voice and the power of the business owners that are the lifeblood of each downtown. And the building owners as well, keeping those buildings in tip-top shape. And then the people that live, work, and play there. So all of these organizations working together on common vision, missions, and goals, you can accomplish great things. So organizational structure, I'm going to pause on this one just a second. And you can see the slide here with everybody having a bright idea. And you can't underestimate the power of people. But the one unique thing about Colorado Main Street is we do not dictate the type of organizational structure that each community selects to run the program. About half of our communities are housed within the local government, and that can be in communications or planning, like Zach's background, or community economic development, or it can be a nonprofit, a 501c3 or a 501c6. Or it can be an economic development council. We have one program that's partially funded through the town, but the program is run through the County Economic Development Corporation. Or it can be a district, such as a URA or a BID, or DDA, Downtown Development Authority. The beauty of this is we work with each community on what is the best fit based on capacity and funding of where the program should be housed. We're not a one-size-fits-all because each community is different. So really how? This is all done, and I think that Zach is going to talk about this in more detail about how he employed this. With our consultant services and with our staff, we help the Main Street organization define their mission and their vision. What are they trying to accomplish? What's their brand? What's their identity? Who are they working with? And then with a core group of either an advisory board or an advisory committee, we work with them to develop a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that's going to line out what they're working on that aligns with the town's comprehensive plan. And then really to keep the work focused and the energies focused, we actually do require that an annual work plan is put in place that identifies the strategies and the people and the resources and the capacity you need to carry out your strategic priorities. And with that, I'll pass it over to Zach.
Thanks. Yeah, so obviously in Elizabeth, we've got a municipal structure, and I like that structure. I went to another community with the same structure in Rifle. And so with that, I think that there's quite a few benefits. Obviously, about half of the folks in the program in Colorado are using that. And some of those are that we have a little more stable funding. I think we've got some more capacity than some of these other organizations could. I've got access to data like building permits and business licenses that are very important for some of the reporting things requirements. And then also I've got a seat at the table, which can be really important for actually making big progress on projects. Able to influence the municipal budget, the infrastructure, and the municipal policy for a lot of these projects we're working on.
I'm just going to stop for a second, go back to that because I didn't do a shout out, I don't think, on this. But last year at our summit in the fall, our peers vote on a Main Street community and a Main Street Manager of the Year, and that was awarded to Zach Higgins into the town of Elizabeth for their outstanding work. And Zach is going to show some more examples of that as we move forward.
Yep. And so my board in Elizabeth, and this, I think there's probably some similarities throughout the state, but is made up of business owners, we've got building owners, design professionals like landscape architects and architects. We had actually Core Electric representative, so that was helpful for our Main Street streetscape project. Parks and Rec District, and then we also had an American Legion rep, and all those people bring, some influence from the community. And then they also were dedicating time and resources to getting our projects and making our events happen. So for the Main Street strategic plan, I think obviously it's too small for you to read, but the big takeaway here for me was that this was put together through funding from DOLA Main Street. They paid for the consultant and they did the facilitating for this, which was great because the town doesn't always have the resources to do these kinds of projects. What's the next? So on the actual strategic plan, so this was developed in part because we spent the first 5 to 10 years working on the Elizabeth Main Street streetscape, and that kind of checked a lot of the boxes for what we needed to be achieving for the program. And amazingly, it's underway. We're probably 3/4 of the way done with construction right now. So we needed to find out what the next 3 to 5 years was going to look like. And so that's what this was about. We started to refocus on how do we help businesses, and maybe we took some or filled in some gaps that the chamber had left and some other things. And so that's where we were going with that. So obviously from the priorities, like I said, focusing on Main Street businesses, promotion to the 80107 community, which is our whole zip code. We're finding that a lot of folks they didn't really care about municipal boundaries. And so Elizabeth meant Elizabeth, and that was, you could live 15 miles north and that was still meant Elizabeth. And so trying to promote to those folks. Cultivating community-wide partnerships. This is just about making sure our resources are being best spent amongst all of the folks that are local, and then encouraging infill and reinvestment along Main Street. Part of that was just, hey, we just spent, $3 million on this streetscape project. Let's make sure that we're, banking on that with new investment. And then another thing to add on to that is that this program, the DOLA Main Street program, really helps to promote these more diverse and dense development patterns that would be maybe scary and unattractive to some of these more rural communities like Elizabeth or like Rifle. And so I was able to do a lot with that in those communities that I probably wouldn't have been otherwise.
So thanks, Zach. So a little bit more about design. Gail mentioned how the Main Street movement was founded in historic preservation, but it's really about everything that makes your downtown attractive. Zach was talking about, the streetscape project and that infill, and just really leaning into placemaking, embracing who you are as a community and sharing that out with the world. We'll get in with that with promotion as well. This is typically my colleague Larry's set of slides because he is our design expert, particularly when it comes to historic preservation. Though I did work for the statewide preservation nonprofit for a number of years, so I feel fairly confident at tackling this topic. There's been a number of studies that prove the benefits of historic preservation, both in jobs that they generate. There's the sustainability factor. It's kind of the ultimate in recycling to reuse that building. But then it's also about heritage tourism, right? Your built environment is one of the things that makes you unique, and it's really kind of leaning into that. And it just creates that dynamic downtown experience. The state of Colorado is really fortunate in terms of incentives in historic preservation. There's the State Historical Fund, which offers up to $250,000 in grants. It does require historic designation, as does the tax credits for that matter. people are often frightened about the idea of preservation by being designated as historic. But by being designated as historic is how you can leverage these funding opportunities, both state and federal tax credits, the State Historical Fund, low interest loans for your buildings. And it helps kind of make projects possible and pencil out in the end. And it's generally designation itself, depending upon the community, doesn't necessarily restrict a building owner, but certainly taking these tax dollars does. If you leverage any of these opportunities, there are easements that go onto your community, but it does preserve that building for the future generations. And again, we have Larry on staff here for our official Main Street communities to tap into when they're thinking about whether that's historic preservation projects for their building, energy efficiency for it. Maybe it's just a sign or the interior layout if a new business is going into that building. He's also helped with concepts in public spaces, and he's provided workshops in our communities and so much more. He's just anything about your built environment in the downtown. Larry is your man. And right here, he did a word cloud kind of he tracks all of the things that he's helped our communities with, and you can kind of see here what some of the most popular things are that he's provided that assistance in. And again, part of that design is your streetscape, increasing the safety and accessibility for your community. Again, it's beneficial to the businesses that are down there, the more you can access them. And there's all sorts of statistics when people are walking more than driving, how much more money that they spend. We have this wonderful publication that we did. I think it's been 6 or 7 years ago now, right before I started with the Department of Local Affairs, called the Colorado Downtown Streets Guide. If you Google that with DOLA, you will find it. It's just this amazing book that really kind of puts streetscaping into layman's terms in a beautifully laid out format. It's truly just a great resource. And again, it's also the placemaking, right? Keeping in mind designing for people in the interaction of people with the built environment, wayfinding and making sure people know where to go, and creating spaces for uses by people to encourage people to come into the downtown and support the economics there. Some of the ways that this happens is through pocket parks. You can see some pictures in our communities here. On the left, this is an example of where Larry just kind of did a conceptual sketch of what a pocket park in Central City might look like. There had been a building here that had burnt down. It's between two wonderful historic buildings. And they were actually, while he can't do stamp drawings, they were able to work with that kind of just sketch of what could happen here, use some our mini grant funds to leverage CDOT Revitalizing Main Street dollars to implement this park in their downtown. In the middle, here's another instance where a building burned down in Lamar, and they put in this pocket park that actually that connects parking to the downtown through this space. Again, some mini grant money, I believe, helped with implementing the stage here. So they also activate this space with different events. And on the right, we have Leadville in Zaitz Park. Again, just another wonderful project that they did. And they did this incrementally when we were doing our mini grants on an annual basis. They just kind of did little bite-sized pieces to do different phases within this park, to get the mural, to get a fire pit. You'll see a slide of a little borrowing library that they use mini grant dollars for. Facade improvements, while we don't currently have any money to assist private businesses anymore, we did have stimulus dollars at the tail end of COVID that we were able to use for Main Street Open for Business. We were awarded those dollars because we were able to demonstrate through national studies, and now we have data from Colorado to prove this as well, that small investments in facade improvements yield high returns in sales tax and property values. And so you can see here, I'm just going to say real quickly about the one on the left here, that's in Leadville. That entire building was mint green, like all of the bricks, the I'm losing my words here, the cornice at the top, the trim around the doors, mint green. They were able to find through scraping the paint and all what they believe were the original colors of the building. And so that's where the paint came in. And then they, because removing paint from bricks can damage the brick, they individually turned each stone on this building. So that's the original color of the bricks because that was the interior color of the bricks. Just incredible work. Then the Fox Theater in La Junta and Bowerbird's Den in Granby. Public art, again, part of that whole placemaking thing that we like to see, and another thing that we can fund. I'm not sure if we funded the mural on the left here in Hugo, but it's certainly something that we would fund. I mean, I believe funded a couple in Elizabeth for that matter. But the mural in Hugo was actually originally done just as a paint by number, and then the kids of the town were able to come in and be a part of that mural project by painting the various colors. Here's the little library in Leadville. It's a burrow, and I will tell Larry's joke where you can burrow a book, and that's in Zates Park. And then there's also you know, but it can also be grand art like this bronze in Montrose, or, you know, cool, funky art that really says something, I think, about lions with the thunderstorms coming in over the sandstone that they're famous for. The public amenities provide an opportunity to lean into your identity as well. In Meeker, we help pay for the banners here that you see, but it was high school students who did the artwork. And then in Steamboat Springs, they used old ski lift chairs for their benches, which really says something about Steamboat, where in Hugo, using old tailgate benches were used. Again, saying something about the place. And then down in the bottom right, we have a bike rack in Lake City. So just, again, using those opportunities for things that you need in your community anyway to say something about the place. Zach?
Yeah, so for Elizabeth, I wanted to talk a little bit about the streetscape project, because that was one of the main focuses of my whole job for the few years that I was there. We were able to do the entire streetscape, which included new sidewalks, we got amenity zones, so about 5 to 6 feet of space for just pedestrians to be. We have bulb outs to reduce the crossing distances. We're putting in crosswalks at every intersection along Main Street, doing street trees, benches, bike racks, trash receptacles, the whole 9 yards. And then we're also putting in wayfinding signs that were actually the design actually came through a Pickaxe, which is another DOLA Main Street funded thing that they helped us with, that helped to do logos and a number of things for us. And the funding for this came from CDOT Revitalizing Main Street. We got $1 million from, $250,000 from those folks, and then $1 million from DOLA EIF Tier 2 grant. And then on the front end of this, we were able to use some DOLA Main Street technical assistance to do some facilitation, and probably they probably helped with the initial design process before I got there. So
Thanks,
and
Zach.
the next slide is of some of the improvements that are already being made. So these are of bulb outs on Main Street. As you can see, we got some brand new concrete. And it's very exciting for our community, and everybody's been coming down to Main Street to look and see what's been going on. And this is actually an interesting example. We've got these grates here. We're able to save about $1 million because we separated our bulb outs from our existing curb and gutter locations, so that we didn't have to move all of our storm sewer infrastructure. And so that kind of made this project viable on the back end. So next. Here are a couple more things that are design related that we got DOLA Main Street help with. So obviously Larry's architect consultation, I bet he's talked to 5 or 6 of the building owners at least once or twice. he's actually working with some folks right now on a really neat project that one of our Main Street board members is doing for probably, you know, it's one of the most visible buildings in the town, which is pretty amazing. They've helped us with the community engagement facilitation on our historic code update. Again, that was another Larry project that he helped us make up some of those code updates. So our entire historic code has been updated 3 years ago. We had some help with designing and figuring out where our Main Street parking lot would go. As well, they mini grant funds helped to put lighting onto the Geeson lot on Main Street. They facilitated everything for the Main Street Archway design, including putting together the RFP, getting it out to bid. It helped us pick out the consultant, and we're able to do this design that you see on your screen that the community had input for, and everybody's really excited. Still working on how to fund it, but I'm confident that we'll get there. That they'll get there one day. And they helped us with the Geeson lot. So we have been struggling as a community for 10 plus years on what to do with the Geeson lot that the town owns. I'm sure there's many of you in your communities that have these vacant parcels that are maybe not getting used to their fullest potential. And so the town was able to put together an RFP with DOLA Main Street and trying to find somebody who would buy it and then develop it in partnership with the town so that we could have some of those influences on what might go there, so that it wasn't just, you know, a McDonald's or something on the corner of our Main Street. Unfortunately, we didn't get any applicants for this, but they have all this stuff there so they can put it out again and make it a little more attractive in the future. And then the last thing on the list is the facade grant creation. Like I said, we kind of were inspired by other communities because there's multiple communities, not just Brush. But we took a lot of inspiration from those folks. And then obviously Main Street helped us, and Larry helped us to put together the whole package that ended up being approved. And it's now in its second year, and we're getting more applicants than we have money for, which is amazing. And we're also seeing that with the funding that's coming in, we're giving out, you know, a couple $1,000s, but we're seeing 2 to 3 times that in private investment. So it's doing a lot for our community. And then on this slide, so I think I touched on it a little bit before, but the Main Street program has really helped me to promote this this more dense and urban development pattern in a rural community that has historically pushed back on it for some time. And really all this is going back to the roots of what these communities were. You know, these small towns were developed on a grid. You know, they had these smaller lots. And so this program is really saying, you know, how do we get back to that diverse environment where you can live, work, play in your Main Street, but I kind of used it to, you know, ripple effect out into the community a little more. You know, I wanted to see this development pattern not just be on Main Street, but how do we get it into the next few blocks? And we're seeing that in Elizabeth with having some rezonings that are coming to our downtown district, and we're starting to see some of those density occur in some housing projects. So it's been a really good tool for that kind of a environment. And I think that there's a lot of rural environments that are going to have the same issues trying to push some of these land use and housing policies. And this Main Street program has been doing it for, you know, a number of decades already. And so they've got a lot of tools in the toolbox to help that happen.
Oh, thank you, Zach. And so you've got the people in place, you got the plan, you're implementing the plan and doing things with design. And so then it's about promoting and getting people into your downtown and celebrating it, both to build a sense of community within your residents, but then sharing who you are out with the rest of the world to attract people. And your identity and image, you can see here, it can be your history, it can be your your creatives in your town, those unique businesses that are located on your main street, leaning into your outdoor recreation opportunities. Zach mentioned our Pickaxe project, which is a branding and messaging project. And so we've helped our communities with some of that messaging, and you can see some of that work here. I do always throw in Main Street Steamboat Springs, even though that is not one of ours, because I do think that that just captures Steamboat so well. You know, it's still about kind of having that identity, and they're leaning into their ranching heritage and their, you know, skiing. Hugo embracing the plains and the sunrise there. It's and I love what they did to with their prairie Yuletide here, using old pallets to create their Christmas trees. Zach.
You're on mute, Zach. Sorry.
Yep. So try not to be loud when I'm not supposed to. Speak to some of our promotions and events. The Main Street Board started the Friday Night Market, which was started as a farmer's market. We realized we weren't going to get the farmers to come out to a Friday night event, so we ended up changing it to a Friday Night Market. But it's a great event that's been super successful. We've now got somewhere between 1,000, 2,000 folks coming out every Friday night for about 11 nights over the summer. It drives traffic to our town. Folks that wouldn't maybe normally come. We get people from Colorado Springs, from Denver, from all over the place. It's just a great family, small town kind of event. Historic Main Street 5K and Family Fun Run. This one again was like another inspiration from towns around us that are in the Main Street program that have something similar. And then my board puts this on largely. We've got some volunteers, but largely it's my board run thing. I had 100 folks come out the first year, 150 the second, and so we'll see what the third year brings. But it's becoming a really neat thing. We had neighborhood block parties and ice cream socials throughout the town last year to really try and connect in the places where people were. Try and make it not so formal. And this was really successful. We had a huge amount of participation. We spent way more money on ice cream than we expected, but it was a good thing. And then the last one of those series, we ended up partnering with the Main Street board and did it on Main Street. And the DOLA folks came and they got to mingle with everybody else too. We've got a historic walk and talk that just it's been a really great event. Had over 100 folks come the last 3 years, which is, I hear, a good number for a historic tour. It seems normal to me and Elizabeth, so I'm glad to see that. We've got a Mayor's Tree Lighting also happening on Main Street. So many Main Street focused events. It's great. And then another cool thing we do is ornaments. So the Main Street Board designs and then has made ornaments that are for Main Street specifically, and we sell them to the businesses at a set price, and then the businesses get to sell them for a set profit. But it's a way for to kind of promote folks to come to Main Street, come to your local Main Street retailer to come get these exclusive ornaments. And we've actually upped our count now to, I think we're buying 300 this year, so it's pretty amazing. We help with Shop Small Saturday, and then obviously with the Pickaxe, the Main Street logo and event logos, it's been a big help for that. And that thing hanging on the tree there is a medal that we made for our 5K and Family Fun Run, and it's just, I think it's really cool, and thought it was a draw to the event. And I know Tracy wishes she could have been there to get one, but
This year,
next
Zach,
time.
this
Yep.
year. Cause
Sounds
yeah,
good.
I really want to, sounds like a wonderful rundown there. And we really abbreviated kind of our promotion slides here. I'm glad that we touched upon things like the ornaments and Shop Small Saturday, because it's not all about events. It's leveraging social media. We're helping all of our communities this year with our consulting services by providing videos to them. And some of them are using that to attract, tourists, and others are using it to explain, explore businesses or to take a, share their heritage or look forward to the future, what their plans are through the Main Street program. And so, and then it's earned media, marketing, sometimes even paid advertising. But I do know that we have a lot to cover, so we'll just mention all of that briefly and give it back to Gail here.
Well, to round out the last of the 4 points of our framework is all economic vitality, and everything really points to this. The more you do as an organization through design and through promotions, you're actually helping retain and expand your businesses that are your lifeblood. You're encouraging public-private partnerships. And along those lines, the training and resources that we offer, not just as staff, but through the network of state Main Street managers, is just invaluable. So it's really data-driven, and more data is becoming available each year with AI and some of the things that are tracked through cell phone usage, which is a little bit scary. But given that, we try to access this data in order to help our communities individually. First, take a look at what is their market. What businesses do you have and what do you offer? What maybe are you missing that based on leakage data or analytics could actually be a profitable business that could set up shop and survive in your downtown? And then through our wonderful state demography office, it's always looking at who you are as a community. Who are your residents? What's their age range? Who's the employment, the key stakeholders for employment in your community? And what is that market there? And what else might you attract? Either a developer, an entrepreneurial person, an artistic person that could actually set up a business. So knowing your building stock, and knowing the businesses that you have, knowing the owners, knowing the vacancies. In this last fall, we just supplied all of our official Main Street communities with a complete database and market assessment toolkit that actually pulled all the assessors' data that was available from, in each community and provided that to our managers in order to be able to think like a developer and know what they have in their Main Street and know what opportunities exist for growing and expanding businesses. And then last, again, community-led means reaching out to the community. What do your residents want? What do they want to see? How are you going to build your community out? And Zach said so many wonderful things about what they're doing in Elizabeth in order to have those opportunities there for generations to come. Zach.
Yeah. So I'm not here to plug Placer.ai, but they do have some pretty amazing data if you get a chance to see what they have on offer. And we do utilize it here in Rifle, and it's a pretty neat tool. So some of the other things that we're working on for economic vitality, we're working on becoming a one-stop resource for local businesses. Part of this was understanding like what it actually takes to open a business. And this was actually an inspiration from the Main Street Now conference. I went to a session on this, and they talked about all these steps that it takes to whether it's open a business or do development. And there's not really clear what that is if you just talk to one agency at a time. And so we wanted to look at actually putting the whole list together. And so you could say, here's where maybe some overlaps exist. Here's where we can kind of pare this down and make it more accessible for folks. One of my board members is working on, he's already got a nonprofit formed. He's got a board that he's got put together to help provide incubator space for food trucks who are trying to get into that next phase of brick and mortar without taking as much of a risk. We've got municipal code updates. So talk about that a little bit later. Again, parking requirements. We're doing a municipal parking lot, and providing public restrooms, which is going to serve both Main Street and our event park. We're, like I said, trying to find a developer who's going to do something amazing on the Geeson lot. We did the leakage report, obviously market assessments and building inventories, and then just that whole live, work, play dynamic that Main Street promotes, and we do it in so many different ways. I mean, we're touching on it whether it's through land use and zoning or it's through promotions and everything else. There's always trying to push towards how do we make this an environment that every resident can use and in every capacity that we can think of.
We have 3 more slides, and I think we're gonna be right on time here. I'm not gonna read all of these, but I did think it was important to point out to this group specifically is how do you know if a program works? We do measure and have quarterly reports submitted by all of our communities on things that can, net new jobs, businesses, building improvements. Just in 2024 alone, over 80 million in public-private investments across the state, 98 buildings were improved. For 26 communities, this is a game changer. And then you can see, since we've been tracking statistics from 2015 to 2024, the magnitude of the impact that this program has had statewide. We also provide these types of statistics on an annual basis back to our communities, so they can show the value of the program to their elected officials and continue to work on the strategic goals. Just a couple other things before we close. We threw this in here because I wanted to mention the Rural Economic Development Initiative, more commonly known as READY. That application cycle just closed last year. It will be open again next year. But we had 3 Main Street communities apply to that this year. This is, again, leveraging capacity, leveraging funding in order to create jobs locally and building a more resilient community and diversified community for generations to come. And then we've done a lot of projects setting folks up for success by doing construction bid documents on Pocket Parks or 2 town plazas, one in San Luis and one in Steamboat, that set them up to coming back to DOLA and working with their regional manager on submitting an EIAF grant. Steamboat and San Luis were both awarded, and they're being built. They're almost done, except for the landscaping, and the ribbon cuttings will be in the spring. And then some other opportunities. There's links here when the slide deck goes out. The Revitalize Main Street program offered through CDOT through 2032 is $250,000 with a 10% match, as Zach pointed out, for streetscape improvements, accessibility improvements. The tourism office has a lot of opportunities for those folks that have a DMO or a chamber. The Colorado Creative Office, we have 3 communities that are in the program that are also a creative district. And then, of course, OEDIT's Rural Technical Assistance Program. And then last, and it may just be a little bit of money, is we've strategically partnered with AARP, who gives Main Street a small set aside to offer small grant awards to 5 or 6 communities annually for downtown physical improvements. And with that, I'm going to close with just one comment from Donovan Ripkema, who is a nationally renowned economist, that said there is simply no more cost-effective economic development program of any type, of any scale, anywhere in the United States than Main Street. So we've got 1 minute to spare. Yippee. Thank you all for your time and attention.
Gail, and team, thank you so much. You guys are so clearly passionate about this program. I want to join personally, but I can't do that because I'm not a town. We do have one question in the Q&A that I'm hoping you can answer. So Joyce from the Old South Gaylord BID is asking if there is a way to use this program to replace some dying trees. So they are trying to find funding to build new planting areas in the sidewalk, connecting irrigation. So if you would answer that, and then to piggyback, who is eligible to participate in this program?
I'll start with that, Tracy, if I forget anything, and we'll hang out afternoon and answer any questions that anybody has. Zach, I don't know if you have time, but if you do, please. The money from our mini grants and our consulting services is given out to communities that are officially in the program. The it's only given out to rural communities. So those are areas of a population of less than 50,000. So we don't work in urban areas. They typically have the capacity and the funding. This program, a lot of them use the framework of the program, but they're not in it. In terms of streetscape and trees and things of that nature, folks can use their mini grant money for streetscape improvements. I'm not sure about trees, Tracy. I haven't been asked that question. We don't like to do things that, we'll do flower pots, but we won't do flowers, for example, because those aren't long-term investments. I think I'd have to check on trees, but Tracy, do you have a comment on
Yeah,
that?
I was gonna say, I think I've heard trees aren't, but I agree. I think we would want to double check on that. And I do think, and I believe Gail already answered this, I'm guessing with the name of Old South Gaylord bid, you're in Denver. And so Gail mentioned, a lot of the metro area is not eligible for the program. And then I see, Abigail, that you mentioned that you're with a special district. We don't currently work with a special district, but as a local government, I would think that there would be the possibility that we could, depending on where you're at in your district. We do have Lake City, for example, actually runs their program through Hinsdale County because of capacity issues. But that is the only one where we don't have the agreement directly with the municipality. Our agreements, because we are DOLA, are always with the local government. But sometimes they do, as Gail mentioned, work with a chamber or a nonprofit or a DDA to implement the program. Any other questions? We're always here to answer them. You can
You're
just
always
shoot an
here.
email. We're with the state. Just look at our emails and it's, first name dot last name at state.co.us.
Yeah, and if you get the slide deck, our phone numbers and everything are listed on slide 2. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Any question is worth answering or for us to connect you to the right person. We pride ourselves in being able to do that.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much. I want to thank all of our speakers and participants for joining us today. Look for a follow-up email with our meeting recording and materials, including notes and Q&A. And please join us for the next call on May 21st. And also stay tuned for future topic announcements. We thank you all. Stay safe out there. It's a really windy day here in Denver. I'm sure it's blowing all across the state. And we hope to see you all soon. And thank you again for joining us. Take care now.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.